What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of mythology, the show where we get higher than a volley of arrows coming off the walls of Troy and tell you guys stories from folklore and mythology. Yeah. Today, we have still Jeff in the house with us on some tunage. Yeah, making the epic even that much more epic. I myself, I'm smoking on some of that North Shore Maui. Shout out to North Shore Maui and all the homies there, because I miss you guys.
I'm still smoking the pixie stick.
Pixie stick. But yeah, today we are going to be jumping into the Epic of Troy.
Part 2.
Part 2. Well, this is going to be the main Troy. I'm sure most of you have been eagerly anticipating this since our last episode, where we so graciously blue-balled you at the end. If you haven't listened to the last episode, the Saturday short about Leda and the Swan, you might want to check that out, because that's a little prequel action.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm gonna hit this bong real quick, and then I'm gonna jump into the story. I'm taking the burden off of Kim today, and I'm gonna be your storyteller. Kind of hard for her to stop me. Troy is my jam. There's definitely no version of this that she could have told me where it would have been like, oh, I didn't know about Troy.
No, you impressed yourself by the unknowledge.
But I did find out some new shit. I'm gonna let you guys know that right now. Yeah, I found out some new shit. So, the Trojan War was basically the Avengers Endgame of the ancient Greek world.
Sounds right.
Yeah, it had all of the big names. And also, just like, the big A finale there, there was a lot of big players that got cut out of their stories. Like, a lot of big players' stories finish in Troy.
Oh. So
demigods and heroes who have these whole epic stories that lead up to Troy, but they just so happen to end in Troy. But, so it was popularized, partially by the original epic from Hermes, the Iliad. Hermes, fucking high already. The original epic from Homer, the Iliad. Dope.
I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, Hermes actually wrote it, yeah. And it was believed to have been based on an actual war between the Mycenaeans and the Hittites, sometime in the Bronze Age. But
oh, shit, that's a long time.
Yeah. But who gives a fuck about the history? Let's get into the good stuff.
All right.
The mythology, the story of the Trojan War. So, if you've listened to our last episode, this part's going to sound familiar. The war started when an expert beauty contest judge and GQ's most eligible bachelor, 1180 BC, Paris, took a trip to Sparta. It was supposed to be a diplomatic trip, but he knew all along that he was going there for some poontang.
Oh, shit.
There was no question in Paris's mind why he was going to Sparta.
Uh-oh.
So it was there that he met the hottest thing to ever hatch from an egg and Real Housewife of Sparta,
Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence. Helen, yeah. Regardless of the story of how it came about, it said that Paris instantly fell in love. Some versions say Helen was abducted by Paris, but most versions agree that she willingly left with Paris.
Because of that fucking belt.
Because of that belt. Because of that.
Nothing she can do.
I think it might be because it's below the belt. See, let's see. At the same time as this happened, there's a whole side story going on, which is basically like the soap opera of the gods. And Zeus was sitting atop Mount Olympus, and he got tired of all the fucking traffic in Greece.
Okay.
So while pondering ways to reduce the population, he saw what Paris had done and decided that to reclaim Helen and to thin the population, there would be the greatest war that the world had ever seen.
Ooh.
So he wanted this to straight up come to war. And he's one of the few, and I'll mention it in a bit, but he's one of the few that completely remained neutral. Like, he just wanted them to fucking
outcome.
murder each other. Yeah. See, Helen happened to be married to Menelaus, the king of Sparta, and an all-around hard-ass.
All girth and no length.
Mm-hmm. Menelaus was pissed, and he called his brother Agamemnon, and they decided to whoop some Trojan ass. See, and this is another interesting thing so to marry Helen, because she was the most beautiful woman, it was a hard choice. Her parents didn't want to give her away to one person and spite the others because everyone wanted her. So what they did is they had all of her suitors, who were basically all of the kings of Greece, agree that whoever got her hand in marriage, everyone else would back him.
Okay.
And support him no matter what. And everyone agreed to it because unanimously, everyone agreed that it's a good idea. For themselves, even. Because if you think about it, if you were going to get her, and you were like, there's 97 other dudes, the second she picks me, someone's going to slit my throat and be like, who's next?
Yeah.
But if everyone agrees to it, then everyone benefits from it, as well as loses the ability to slit the throats. So when she was taken, Agamemnon put out the call to all of his homies, all of the people who had been suitors.
Okay.
And most of them came. There were a few people who were reluctant to show up. I think my favorite is Odysseus. Odysseus didn't want anything to do with it because he didn't care. He thought Helen was probably happier there anyway.
Yeah.
But they came to him, and so he pretended like he was basically mentally incapable, and that he had gone senile. Yeah, and then they threw his son in front of a plow.
Wednesday.
Yeah, they grabbed his son and threw his son in front of a plow.
What the?
And so when he leapt out and grabbed his son out from in front of the plow, it proved to him that he was competent, and so he had to come and bring all of Ithaca with him.
Motherfuckers! Fuck.
Yeah, and another funny one was Achilles, because his mom did not want him to be there. She dressed him up as a woman and tried to hide him, and eventually they somehow found out it was Achilles and caught him and made him join the battle too. But yeah, so led by Agamemnon of Mycenae, they had assembled the greatest army the world had ever seen. Homer's words were, as many men as the leaves and flowers that come in spring.
Jesus.
So basically all of Greece. Aside from the tens of thousands of warriors that showed up, all of the big heroes were there. Some fought for riches, some for fame, some for the glory of Greece, but they all kind of had their own stories that they were coming to Troy with. Yeah.
I heard I could find the best pickle here.
Yes, I heard that there's a good pickle in Greece, or in Troy. They have the crown pickle. So yeah, there was Achilles.
Is where I do my Easter shopping.
Who was the most famous. He was an almost indestructible demigod. And
Wait,
basically Achilles.
Okay.
And he was, his grandfather is Zeus.
Okay.
And then if you go down, and if you've listened to the last episode, you heard me figure this out. Like, in the episode, Thetis and Peleus, his mom, actually their wedding was responsible for Paris getting the golden apple trial thing.
Yeah, because what's her name? Ares' sister.
Yeah.
Ares didn't go.
Yeah.
She wasn't invited.
He's the grandson of Zeus and the son of a Titan. And crazy. He was dipped, what was it? Wasn't he dipped in the...
Holy water.
In ambrosia water, I think it was.
Jesus Christ.
Or something like that.
Nectar of the gods.
Yeah, the nectar of the gods when he was a baby.
Yeah, it's ambrosia.
And so he's completely indestructible. Except
I thought ambrosia was whipped cream and fruit mixed together.
Yep, they just dipped him into a big vat of fruit and whipped cream.
They lick it off.
Yeah. I like my baby with fruit and whipped cream. It makes him stronger. Don't put any on the heels.
Jello.
Jello. Yes.
Jello shots off the baby. That's fucking weird. I would never get down.
Yeah.
Never.
But yeah, he was also pretty much the OG Han Solo. Like the way he acts in the story. And even his
I love you.
His arc.
I know.
His arc through the story is definitely like that. I don't care about anything. I'm just doing this for my own means. And then, it gets to a point later where he definitely has that no, now I'm in it for the fucking kingdom. Then there was Odysseus, who I had mentioned played dumb. He was the king of Ithaca and renowned as basically the smartest man in the world. He was a master of battle strategy.
Interesting.
Pretty much 90% of the cool battles that they come up with are all
behind
straight
him.
From Odysseus. Yeah.
Interesting.
Then there was Ajax the Great.
Who the fuck's that?
He was another grandson of Zeus. We're going to eventually do a whole episode where we talk about Ajax also, because he used to roll with Hercules.
Okay.
Ajax is older, and he's a big motherfucker.
Okay.
If you've seen the old movie, the movie Troy that they made with
picturing Paul Bunyan.
He's the giant dude. But he's also grandson of Zeus, and they called him the bulwark of the Archeans, which is what they called their little army. Well, their little army. Their giant army of all of Greece that set off to Troy. They called themselves the Archeans.
Okay.
So if you hear me bring that up, it's just referring basically to their army.
Okay.
And then there was Diomedes, king of Argos, who brought 80 ships and godlike cunting. Godlike cunting.
Wow.
He brought godlike cunning. He's one of my favorites too, because he does a lot of cool shit also, where he rolls with Odysseus, and for some reason, I always just picture Rodney James Dio because of Diomedes. So every time in my mind it goes to one of their battle plans, it's like, all right, Diomedes, let's break in there. All right, we're gonna break in there. Yeah. Holy diver. Yeah.
I was just listening to that song earlier.
We're gonna sneak through like a rainbow in the dark. Oh, but then there was Patroclus, cousin and close friend of Achilles. Antilochus Antilochus, who was a prince of Pylos and the son of King Nestor, which is relevant stuff later on. Menetheusus, who was the king of Athens and master of chariots, and Idomeneus.
I mastered this fucking chariot.
Mastered this chariot. Idomeneus, who was the leader of the Cretan armies, and he was the grandson of Minos, who was the guy who's put the labyrinth underneath.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was like, God, I know that name.
Yeah,
right.
and he was a close friend of Ajax.
Was he?
Yeah.
Because I got a whole story on him that I was researching earlier. Yeah. I was like, ooh.
And they'll probably come up in some of our Greek heroes collection, I'm sure. But yeah, so they set out for Troy in what was, at that point, the largest collection of war boners to ever hit the sea. And the gods weren't about to sit this out either, especially with all of their chosen heroes getting in. So Athena, Poseidon, Hera, Hephaestus, Hermes, and Thetis all gave their support to Greece, protecting mainly their chosen heroes on the battlefield.
Jesus.
Yeah.
These are my champions.
Yeah.
We must adore them.
And then, so here's another interesting one I found, which tied into a side thing later, but on the way to Troy, first thing when they set out, They had bad winds. Because the first stop, I guess someone had killed a rabbit to eat.
Bad luck.
On an island, and it happened to be one of Artemis's chosen rabbits.
Oh, shit.
So this kind of is the first ill omen of the entire trip. They get stuck on this island, and in order to allow them to go, the Artemis demands that Agamemnon burns his daughter alive.
Oh, shit.
And
That's
so
the price for her bunny.
Mm-hmm. And so he obliges, and they have to sacrifice his daughter.
Oh,
but then they make it to Greece. Or not to Greece, to Troy.
Okay.
Then they make it all the way to Troy after that, with one small pit stop that Odysseus takes on the way.
Oh,
but we'll get into that later on, because
some putang.
That's a whole little separate side story that ties into another character.
Honestly, that's what I would do if I was just some Greek dude in a ship.
Yeah.
Where's the next port for some putang?
Need a port. But, yeah.
I need to port this.
I need a port. Any port in a storm, right?
Hopefully without fucking crabs.
Yeah. So Troy wasn't about to roll over, though. It was not in any way, a bitch city. They weren't about to take it. They had a moment of diplomatics where King Priam did get the chance to surrender, but apparently none of his sons were willing to. They all wanted to go to war with Greece. Because they were just like, and I can kind of see it, because it's like, you got all the badass heroes coming your way, and if you're a badass hero on your own right, and you hear that, and you're like, who's coming to fuck with me? Oh, no, it's too late to turn back. You got Achilles on a boat. He's on a boat. We're about to get some shit done.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so the city itself was an impenetrable fortress, surrounded by 40-foot high walls that were built by Apollo and Poseidon to be completely indestructible.
Whew.
So their entire defense was made by the gods.
You got sun and water. Fire and water.
Yeah.
Ooh. Nice combo.
Nice combo. Priam was the king of Troy, and he had no shortage of friends either. Let's see.
I always felt bad for him. Out of all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Just him.
Yeah. Well, he really didn't want to go to war either.
Didn't.
He's like, can you just, Paris, I just brought you back into the family. Can you just cut it out with this Helen stuff? And just
give her back.
Give her back. And Hector's over there like, I'll fucking flex on somebody right now. You don't know how fucking pumped up I am, Priam. But yeah, so he had the Carians, Halizonians, Caliconians, Kikonians, Licinians, Myonians, Mysians, Paeonians, Paphlagonians, Palasaganians, Pyrigians, Thracians. Shout out to my boy Spartacus.
Heyo.
And later on in the war, even Ethiopia and the Amazons came to the assistance of Troy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we got some Merib from Ethiopia. You guys haven't seen fucking American Gods. That's that vagina
Oh, yeah,
woman.
yeah.
She's Ethiopian.
Queen Sheba.
Yeah.
Queen of Sheba, yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. But,
we should get into that someday.
Oh, we totally will do the Queen of Sheba, because that's a totally cool story. But with them came their heroes from all over the known world. Okay. So there were the sons of Priam, which were Hector, who was a Trojan badass, and possibly not even actually Priam's son. Sorry, Priam. But it's actually believed that he was most likely Apollo's son, because Apollo was secretly banging Priam's wife.
Oh, it happens.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
His brother Paris, who we all know from the Judgment of Paris, who was the chosen of Aphrodite and an expert archer who, depending on the story, wielded the bow of Heracles.
Oh, he sounds like an Apollo's kid, too.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't he look a lot like fucking Hector in the stories?
Oh, yeah. They look similar.
So they're both
they both had the same mom, for sure. But then there was Aeneas, cousin of Priam.
Did you say anus?
Anus. Aeneas.
Aeneas.
I'm going to mess up his name every time, too, because I talk about him a lot at the end. But he was the cousin of Priam and the son of Aphrodite, which it starts to lead me to believe that the Greek gods, like the reason they were so devout, a lot of them in keeping Troy, is they're like, no, that's where we go to fuck. Yeah. You can't break Troy down, man. That's where I go to fuck.
Jesus.
Yeah. Then there was Sarpedon, who was the son of Zeus and Europa.
Okay.
His cousin Glaucius of Lycia, grandson of Bellerophon, who was another badass. Every time I read this guy's name, it comes across as Porky's in my mind, so sorry if I keep calling him Porky's. Phorcys of Pergia, who was leader of the Phrygians. Let's see, there was Polydamas, who was the friend of Hector.
Leader of the furries.
He was a friend of Hector and the lieutenant of the Trojan army. Rhaesos of Thrace, who was the master of showing up late to the party.
That's you.
Yeah.
Always 15, 20 minutes late.
Always 15 to 20. And then they also received divine intervention through the hands of Apollo, Aphrodite, Leto, and occasionally Ares. Ares would jump back and forth, as well as I think there was some jumping back and forth with Artemis. Artemis was totally on Troy's side.
Huh.
Yeah. Because she was pissed off at the Greeks for killing that fucking rabbit.
Okay, yeah.
That really scorned her.
I know a guy that really likes rabbits.
Mm-hmm.
Joey.
Well, yeah. Well, that's also another thing in another side story that would make sense for that. Because she was also pissed off because she got left out of the beauty contest.
Ah.
Uh-huh.
I see.
Yeah.
She's like, I would have won that shit for
yeah,
sure.
Exactly. Just because I say I won't lay with a man doesn't mean I can't be prettier than you.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, so the war lasted for 10 years and was covered by multiple writers from multiple different angles, each kind of coming in and following different characters through different stories. So I'm going to go over some of the best battles / high points from the decade of fighting and try to somewhat keep it in order, except for a few little story twists I throw in the end. But I'm going to try to keep it in order. Apologies if I leave anything out.
I mean, I felt that way about the Egyptian mythology, so I don't feel bad.
Or if anyone gets offended, I will tell you the book that we used for a lot, or I just found for some new reference that you can read. So if you are interested in the story, you'll have that option too. So, the Greeks sailed under a prophecy that the first man to set foot on Trojan soil would be the first man to fall. So once the boats landed, everyone was afraid to step on shore. Mm-hmm. So the second the Greek army gets there, no one wants to get out of the fucking boats.
Yeah, I don't either.
Mm-hmm. But
I'll stay right here and fish.
Being smart, Odysseus cleverly chucked his shield over his ship, and then made a big deal out of it, and leapt from his boat onto his shield. Everyone thinking that he had touched the sand figured that they were good to go. And so Protelysians, who was another one of the kings, leapt from his boat and was officially the first to touch the beach. In the first skirmish that same day, the first interaction, he caught Hector's spear straight to the neck, striking him dead right away. Yeah.
Ow.
His wife was so distraught.
I would be too.
That the gods actually allowed him to come back to life for 3 hours to sire an heir after he had died.
Fuck no.
Yeah. I also think that might just be her covering for something. Yeah. There's a good chance that's the wife, like your husband's dead, no. And she's like, oh, I was hoping he would come back so I could totally say the baby is his. He came to me after death.
I mean, unless it's already happened, then no.
Yeah. Oh, they didn't bring him back like a zombie or anything, I don't think.
No.
If they did, then that's really weird.
I'm sorry, but no.
Yeah. Yeah, but they also say, the legends say that his heir looked strangely a lot like the mailman.
Hermes?
Yeah.
That's the only mailman I know back then.
So Achilles, he was only in it for the spoils. And a few years into the war, Agamemnon, which some say he was actually visited by, or the vision was sent to him by Aphrodite, but got a vision saying that they would win the war if Achilles didn't fight, and also making him fall in love with Achilles. They called it his war spoil, but it kind of like, the more they talk about it, it sounds like his girlfriend. But Agamemnon decided to rob him and took his lady and his loot.
Ooh.
And so he demanded that the Greeks repay him. And when they didn't, he decided to sit out of the fighting. Just for the next, so 90% of the war, Achilles actually wasn't even involved in. Because they say this happened pretty early, and then he's just, chilling. Yeah, after years of indecisive back-and-forth battles, Menelaus was fed up, and he challenged Paris to a one-on-one fight.
Okay.
This would be the first of many epic one-on-ones that happen.
Yeah, they did try a lot of one-on-ones.
Yeah.
Of course, it never worked out. I always ended up back.
Yeah. Paris accepted it, and it was on. So Paris, I guess the way they did a back and forth before you fight, where you could throw a spear and then he could throw a spear. And this is funny because it kind of just instantly ruins Paris's view as badass. But so Paris got the first throw of the spear.
Okay.
He hucked it, and it barely stuck into the side of Menelaus' shield.
Well, he's an archer.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And then Menelaus got his throw. He threw it, and it shattered through Paris' shield and pierced into his armor. He only barely dodged out of the way of death at the last possible second.
Wow.
Yeah. Menelaus had just cracked open a fresh can of whoop-ass, and he wasn't about to put it down. So he fucking rushed Paris with his sword, hitting him in the helmet. Menelaus' short sword shattered on contact with Paris' helmet. I guess he had a super special, durable helmet.
Mm-hmm.
But Menelaus wasn't done. He grabbed Paris by the fucking helmet and started dragging him around the battlefield, choking him with the strap.
Just like some rag doll.
Yeah. And he really is just the way they make it sound is it was not even nearly close. Menelaus was just wiping the floor with him the whole time. Yeah. And then so Aphrodite, seeing her favorite fuckboy get his ass handed to him, decided to intervene. She broke the strap and then covered Paris in a mist before whisking him away back to his room, presumably for a quick bang sesh.
Should have just knocked him upside the head. Why'd you agree? You know you're an archer.
You know you're an archer, yeah. But they totally make it sound too, because what is the phrase they use? She took him back to a perfumed room.
Mm-hmm.
And then
gave him a fucking rose bath.
What was it? Yeah, I think bathed him and
poured honey
bathed him and cared to his wounds.
Oh,
yeah. It's he didn't really have that many wounds.
Only a couple bruises on the face.
Now,
yeah, he's got a swollen face, probably.
Yeah. The next one-on-one was a little more well-balanced and a lot more epic. It was Hector versus fucking Ajax. Fight!
Nice.
So they threw their spears at each other, but both of them being badasses managed to dodge. So then they grab rocks.
Oh.
Hector threw a rock.
Stone him to death.
Yeah.
Oh.
Only to have Ajax block it with his shield. Ajax, being a fucking big motherfucker, picked up a bigger rock and threw it, and it crushed Hector's shield. Mm-hmm. And then they both pulled their swords and rushed each other. But they happened to be held back by their bros because it was almost happy hour.
Serious?
It was a strange custom for the time. They would call fights when it was too late, and they even had super friendly ends, like this one especially. They exchanged friendly goodbyes and gifts. This was among many of the strange traditions they upheld. They also had camp parties. That was another thing.
Pause for tea time.
Yeah, they had the war camp.
And biscuits?
Instead of like your typical war camp that you'd assume to see. They would basically turn it into a whole town where they would have regular townspeople that came with them to conduct business and do town stuff and fucking carnivals and shows and fucking shit like that.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, huge camp parties, fucking gladiator battles in the camps.
Wow.
Over the time, they formed their own little town. But most soldiers...
Troy Jr.? Troy Jr.?
Troy Jr., yeah.
Because it's only temporary.
Yeah, it's only temporary. Yeah. There were, all the performers and bakers and shit like that make total sense when you think about it. Because, like I said, the war goes on for 10 fucking years. Mm-hmm. So, like, a lot of the people, you're not in a camp anymore. You're in a camp for like a week. You're not in a camp for 10 fucking years. By that point, you're like, no, I built a house.
Yeah.
If I need to take it down, I'll take it down. I'm sure I'll have years.
Right.
Yeah. And,
we're going to be here a while, guys.
Yeah. The only real main relevance to this is that they had built their own fortifications, their own walls. Around their little town and encampment. So during this part of the battlefield, or during this part of the war, another cool thing is the gods freely walked the battlefield.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
Nothing hurts them.
Yeah. So Diomedes, great-great-great-grandfather of Rodney James Dio, was one of the most favored of the gods. And it was even said that Athena would drive his chariot while he just archered from the back. So he had that much help from the gods.
Interesting.
Yeah. See, Diomedes, also, this was another thing I found I loved about him, was the only man to injure a god. During battle, he managed to stab Ares with a spear, as well as cutting Aphrodite when she tried to pull that same shit again with Paris.
Oh, shit.
She tried to show up and intervene, and he was like, nah, and I guess he had some god-killing weapons or abilities. Huh. Or he's also a demigod, but he managed to cut Aphrodite and he stabbed fucking Ares with a spear.
Jesus.
And that made Ares stop fucking around with him for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Odysseus and Diomedes caught a spy named Dolon. And Dolon let it spill that Rhesus, heir to the peanut butter cup throne, had just shown up. He was a few years late and was camping on the beach. Rhesus was the guy I mentioned earlier who is classically late for the party. He was so late that, I think they said it was like 3 or 4 years into the war he showed up.
I'm sorry, guys. I was caught up on a different lone island.
I was doing shit. They attacked, cutting Rhesus to pieces, and stealing the Thracian horses.
Oh, no.
So they stole all of the Thracian horses for Greece. And that was a major blow to Troy. Odysseus and Diomedes would eventually be the ones to end the war, but we'll get into that in a bit, as well as some contradictions between that and other versions. So the battle started to turn in Troy's favor after more backup arrived. Mainly, I'm going to mispronounce her name. Penthesilea, Queen of the Amazons. Yep, those Amazons. Wonder Woman!
Interesting.
Yeah. And Memnon, the king of Ethiopia. Penthesilea was the daughter of Ares, and she showed up with 12 Amazonians. And together they pretty much instantly won a decisive victory against Greece, killing Antilochus in the process.
Ooh.
So fresh off the boat, they murked fucking Antilochus.
Who the fuck is Antilochus?
He was one of the Greeks' demigod heroes.
Oh, yeah.
He was Argos, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah. And following that great victory, Hector got ballsy and pushed back, attacking the walls of the Greek base. He broke through, crushing their defenses and pushing them back to their ships. Hera, using the old honeypot technique, because this is at one of the big points where Zeus is trying to actively make sure, like, after the gods were roaming the battlefield, he's like, no, stop. Let the people fight their war. So he's trying to make sure the gods don't interfere. But Hera uses the old honeypot to distract Zeus, giving Poseidon the opportunity to step in and rally the Greeks, filling Ajax with godlike strength and turning the tides of the battle. Apollo, however, also noticed Zeus was distracted and was not having any of it. So he filled Hector with his light and support. And so Hector manages to push them back again and starts to set the boats on fire. So at this point, the Greeks have basically been pushed back onto their ships, and their ships are being set ablaze. While all this is going down, Achilles is kicking back without a single fuck to give.
Right.
Having his lady taken, he really doesn't care too much for the Greek plight. Like I said in the beginning, he didn't want to come to the fight initially.
Right.
Like, he was going to bounce in the beginning. And he pushed Agamemnon for his spoils back, and Agamemnon had denied him. So rightfully, he took a fuck Agamemnon's stance. A stance a lot of people have taken, actually.
Okay.
And once the Trojans started to push back, Agamemnon saw the need for Achilles and began to offer him riches beyond his belief, make him a king in Greece. Achilles wanted none of it. He was just already pissed off from that initial slight.
Yeah.
And then with the ships, ships starting to burn, everything's burning around them. Patroclus, his cousin, also saw the need for Achilles to show up and came and begged him to lead a charge. Because he said if Achilles led the charge, they could rally and they could push back. Mm-hmm. Achilles refused because he still had 0 fucks.
Right.
But then Patroclus came up with another idea. He asked him if he could wear Achilles' armor and lead the Myrmidons himself. And at first he refused until he started seeing all of the burning ships and basically realized, like, I'm not going to be able to go home if these guys don't get their shit in order. And some versions say, some other versions also say that he stole the armor. But the important thing was that Patroclus, Achilles' cousin, got his armor.
Okay.
Before he left, Achilles warned him to only repel the Trojans and not to push the attack to the walls.
Yeah.
That was the key rule. Just get them off. Don't fucking push it back to the walls. So Patroclus then showed up to the battle in full-on Achilles garb.
See, it happens.
See, it happens. The troops rallied and pushed the Trojan force back, and Patroclus even managed to kill the demigod Sarpedon.
Sarpedon.
Yeah, who, that was the one I was saying was the son of Zeus even, so he's a badass. Okay. But he managed to kill him, and riding the wave of murder boner, Patroclus decided to ignore Achilles and push the attack back to the walls, thinking this was going to finally be their chance. Mm-hmm. Patroclus attacked Hector, kind of shooting for that one-on-one attack. But Apollo happened to be standing vigil on the walls. And he saw this and knew that he was an imposter, not the real Achilles. So he broke his spear and then shattered all of his armor to dust off of his body, leaving him naked. Hector seized the opportunity and struck a killing blow with his spear.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's got to be kind of weird, too, to be going to fight a guy and you're like, Achilles, I'm ready to fight you. And then all of a sudden, just his armor just blows away in the wind. Oh, your dick's hanging out and you're not Achilles. I'm going to stab you still, though. I don't like this. I don't feel comfortable right now. Awkward, don't come closer than my spear. I will stab you. Hearing of his cousin's death, Achilles was pissed. He had a huge funeral and then decided to take revenge. And this is his, like, Han Solo fucking New Hope turn where it's like, I don't want to help him. I don't want to help him. And then they killed his cousin. And yeah, he's like, oh, Troy's going down. Troy is going down. But yeah, his mother Thetis commissioned Hephaestus, the blacksmith of the gods, to make him a suit of armor as well as a new shield and spear and a gold-crested helmet. They say his shield had all of the constellations in the galaxy on it.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it, like, radiated and shit. Like, they gave him some badass, like, god-level equipment.
Dope.
Yeah, decked out in his new gear, Achilles took to the battlefield. He quickly beat back the army with the help of Ajax and Odysseus by his side. And once they fled inside the gates, it just so happened Hector got left outside. Yeah. And it's funny, too, because I always thought the way they set it up, I always thought it was a one-on-one. Mm-hmm. But pretty much everyone I was reading made it sound like this was the only one that wasn't like a genuine, like, let's battle one-on-one. It was like they were all scrambling to get in the walls, and someone closed the doors and was like, oh, fuck, Hector's down there. And Hector did not want to fight Achilles from the sound of it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So yeah, Achilles rushed him, and fearing his death, Hector began running around the walls of Troy. Achilles chased, and they say they went around the city 3 times.
Oh, fuck that.
Which had to have looked pretty silly from the fucking walls. Just watch it. Just Hector. Nope.
Fucking
come back here. I'm gonna fucking stab you. Nope. Yeah.
Someone throw down a rope.
Yeah. And he eventually caught up to Hector and speared him directly through the throat.
Oof.
Just one hit wonder. Didn't even have a fight with him. Caught up to him right through the throat. Hector done. Then he got a little weird with it. Then he stripped his body naked.
Oh.
And began dragging him back to the Greek camp behind his chariot.
Oh.
Yeah. Priam and Paris watched from the walls as Achilles defiled Hector's body.
Ooh.
And this was a big no-no. Not only breaking the rules of war, which, like I had mentioned in the other stuff, like, they had some pretty stern rules of peaceful war, like, good day to you, sir. We shall return to battle on the morrow. Have a gift. And instead he's like, nah, I pissed on him and drug his body behind my chariot.
Ooh.
But it also broke all the rules of the gods.
Ooh.
And Poseidon instantly withdrew his support from Greece. Which was a big deal because Poseidon was Greece's biggest supporter as far as the gods went.
Mm-hmm.
Achilles eventually returned the body after Priam came to him in the night and begged him to. But it was still, the slight was still made. And they did agree to an all-day or an 11-day truce for a period of mourning. And this is when you hear some of the silly stuff, like during this 11-day truce, it's like there's festivals going on and shit.
I mean, that was the
it's
same
like a
thing
carnival.
With that last story we told fucking Alibaba. 40 days.
Mm-hmm.
40 days of mourning. Shit happens around town.
Yep. So, Nestor, who was the father of the guy that Memnon and the fucking Ethiopians had killed, got mad and challenged the king of Ethiopia to a duel for killing his son.
Ooh.
Memnon refused because Nestor was like 80. He was an old-ass man. But Achilles offered to fight in his stead. Memnon accepted, which was a big mistake. Achilles beat Memnon, which caused the army of Ethiopia to then pull out and head back, and lost an ally for Troy.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it's also said that he met Penthesilea on the battlefield, and he instantly fell in love with her. And the two ended up getting caught up fighting each other, and after a long battle, he ended up killing her.
Oh.
And I do get a kick out of the fact that that is the only fight with him that sounds equal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, after all the other fights, think about it, like, he's fighting big dudes. Hector, the hero of Troy, he's chasing him around the fucking, Troy like a little bitch. And then fucking the Amazonian comes in and it's like, nah, that's a long, hard-fought fight.
Yeah.
She beat him so good he fell in love with her. Yeah, and after that, he split to Lesbos for a while to get his head straight. And take some time to recoup. But they said that, like, there's most of them that talk about that also determine that as the moment where Achilles basically lost his fight. After coming back, he was struck with an arrow in his weak spot, fired from the walls of Troy. His literal Achilles heel.
I mean, I know how that goes. I once had a dog bite me there.
Yeah.
Fucking brought me to my knees. I was like, what the fuck? A Bashan. A fucking little Bashan.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I know his pain.
Goddamn Bashans.
I know his pain.
Yeah, and now, so there's some slight variations on how exactly. One version says it was a regular bow with poison arrows. The other says it's the bow of Heracles. But either way, the arrow was guided by Apollo to specifically hit his one weak spot. And I personally prefer the poison arrow route. And him not having the bow of Heracles, Paris not having the bow of Heracles, because it leads to a whole nother side story with a whole nother character, and a little bit that I had left out.
The poison would have made more sense.
And it made, well, also too, the bow of Heracles shot poison arrows. So either way, there was poison involved.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
I see.
After Achilles' death, the Greeks were distraught. And to make matters worse, Odysseus and Ajax argued over who would get Achilles' armor. Odysseus won, probably because there's no way in hell that Ajax could fit into it. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was a big dude. And either way, Ajax went out and got drunk and mad with grief, and he slaughtered a bunch of sheep.
Okay.
Thinking that they were Greeks, then tripped and fell on his sword.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Some get dark with it, and actually most of them get dark with it, and say he just straight up there went out and slaughtered the Greeks' sheep because he wanted to take their food source and then killed himself on his sword, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And sad, because Ajax is like I said, when we get into Ajax in a couple of other stories, you'll hear of how, like, it's amazing that this dude was brought to his end that way. So on to what I left out. See, before they landed on Troy, Odysseus, that short stop that I had mentioned, they had stopped off on Lemnos for a night. And there, one of the heroes, and this is going to sound familiar to you possibly, Kim, Philoctetes. Yep. Was bitten by a snake.
Yeah.
The stench and screaming were too much, so Odysseus decided to bail and leave him on Lemnos. No big deal, right?
What a dick.
Yeah. Philoctetes happened to be the actual bearer of the bow of Heracles, having met him as a child and even lit his funeral pyre.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was why I was saying, too, like, more of them make sense. Homer, I think, was actually the only one that gave Paris the bow of Heracles. Most of the other ones have it being Philoctetes, because he ties into Hercules.
Right.
Yeah. After the death of Achilles, Odysseus made a tactical move. He kidnapped Troy's seer, Helenus, Paris's brother, and then they tortured him until he talked. And Helenus told them that in order to win, they must do 4 things. First, Achilles' son, Neopoltimus. Yes, it's Neopoltimus. Neopoltimus has to join the fight. 2, Philoctetes must be rescued from Lemnos and use the bow of Heracles in battle. 3, weird one, the bones of Agamemnon's grandpa must be brought to Troy. And then 4 was they had to steal the Athena statue from inside of Troy. There was a small Athena statue. So first, the boy, of course, son of Achilles, always DTF, down to fight. Second, Philoctetes. He was pissed off at first, with reason, being that he survived for 10 fucking years on Lemnos after they left him.
Wow.
Because don't forget, the war took 10 years, and they left him on the way with a snake bite. So it's like, I could even see Odysseus when he hears, like, go get Philoctetes, like, oh, fuck, I totally thought he would have died from that snake bite. Yeah. But yeah, he didn't want to join them at first, but he had a late night talk with the ghost of Hercules, and he decided to go. Oh. Or Heracles, Hercules, same dude. In case you're wondering who Heracles is and you don't know, Heracles and Hercules are the same dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Third, easy. Someone mailed it. The bones. And for the 4th, Odysseus and Diomedes snuck in like a rainbow in the fucking dark and snatched that statue and then carried it back out of Troy. Odd that it was odd to me reading that, like, so 2 dudes could just sneak into Troy that easy and you guys have been here for 10 years?
Yeah.
But, rules of war, they did have the rules of war. You weren't supposed to attack them at night. But instantly, the tide started turning again. The Greeks were winning battles left and right. Philoctetes killed Paris with the bow of Hercules. Okay. No movie happy ending here. No Paris gets away.
Yeah, no, he was never supposed to.
No, he gets got. And it was good going until Troy decided, in a strategical move, to no longer come out and fight. They just sat behind their impenetrable walls, farting in the Greeks' general direction.
Nice.
I like to imagine Priam on the walls, too, with that same fucking Frenchman attitude from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I fart in your general direction.
Your mother was a hamster.
Come out and do a one-on-one. Yeah. I will not do a one-on-one. Be gone with you.
We will throw a cow at you.
Yeah. And so Odysseus came up with a plan. With the help of Athena and a builder named Epius, they made a giant wood horse and then decided to sail the fleet away. The horse, of course, was hollow and full of men. And it had basically a note pretty much left on it that said, to the Trojans, like as a gift.
Dude, I bet you it looked so weird when the men were hobbling out. And it looked like the horse was giving birth to all these little men.
Yeah, I like to imagine they all had to pop out the butthole.
He's shaking the human shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and only one guy I guess. There were a couple people who tried. One guy spotted it and basically tried to tell them directly that it was full of men. But Athena brought out serpents, and the serpents fucking ate him. Yeah. Wow. Which obviously should have been a sign. If you're part of the Trojans and you're like, is this a trap? And one dude's like, nah, right there. I can see a guy looking at me through the horse's butthole. And then 2 snakes come out and just pull him into the water.
That's fucked up.
Nah, he must have been wrong.
Jesus.
Yeah. The Trojans took it as a gift and rolled it into the city. They partied hard. I mean, end of a decade lockdown party. I mean, imagine how hard we're gonna party after a year. Put that on a whole decade? These guys are fucking partying. And after everyone was passed out, or 2 balls deep to pull out, the Greeks sprang their trap and busted out of the horse's butthole and opened the gates of Troy, and then sacked the city, ending the war and destroying Troy. Most of the Trojans were killed. This was another rule that was broken by Greece, and the final straw for most of the gods. Most of the Greeks who emerged victorious would never actually make it home. I think 90% of them, in their own like little post-Troy legends, they don't actually make it home.
Jesus.
Yeah. That is a whole odyssey, though, and we will get into that in a whole nother time. Another good mention is Aeneas. The other prince of Troy, escaped with a small group, and they fled to Italy, where they started a new home.
Those are my ancestors.
In a place that would become called Rome, and happened to be what was thought to be the ancestors of Romulus and Remus, the first emperor of Rome. Then there was some other cool stories there. Some wild stuff from the sacking of Troy. Like they cut Priam's line. It was the one move that I don't like to talk about because I love Odysseus because of the old Odyssey movie, but it's one of the moves that he makes where you're like, dude. He went straight up, killed Priam's wife.
Ooh.
Killed Hector's wife.
Wow.
Then threw their newborn baby from the walls of Troy.
Wow.
Yeah, to sever their fucking line forever. And there's other talk about, like, because they went wild on that night, too, and that's also what angered the gods. Someone raped someone in a temple of Athena. I forget who that was, but it was one of the other heroes. Like, raped a Trojan lady in Athena's temple. And all kinds of other shit. But they ended up, looting and burning the city. And killing almost everyone. Another cool fact.
I just don't feel bad for the Trojans. I just feel bad for Priam.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I was always on the side of Troy with it, which is funny because I love all the Greek heroes more. But I just always felt for Troy. I guess because the romantic angle of it. Like, no, let them love each other. Yeah, but also mainly because Agamemnon's a cocksucker, and I always hated Agamemnon. Yeah, like I literally loved all of the other people on the Greek side, but I hated Agamemnon so much, I would oftentimes side with Greece.
Yeah, but the Spartan king didn't deserve it.
He didn't.
He's a nice guy. Their marriage was supposedly, like, quite happy,
it doesn't seem bad. Yeah. But, another cool side variation of the story, and this one ties more into Artemis, was that Artemis played everyone. And from the beginning, before Paris took Helen, Artemis had taken Helen to live with her in the woods.
Dude, she's mad about
and left
that
a fucking ghost version. Well, this was pre-Rabbit. It was because she was left out of the beauty contest. So she took Helen as her prize and left them with like a spectral version of Helen.
Interesting.
And they fought the whole war and no one noticed that it was fake Helen until they got her back to fucking Sparta.
Wow.
Yeah, and then she just poofed into a giant cloud. They're like, Artemis, you played us! And that one, too, I think, was supposed to accentuate the fact that, like, all of 90% of the stories, no one ever even really pays attention to Helen. Or talks to her, or really treats her as a human being for too much of the story.
That sounds
She's
right.
like, you are my prize, but she was my prize. She's like, I'm not anybody. No, what? The men are talking.
I know, for real.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's just how it was back then.
Yeah.
We were just property back then.
Just property. Yeah. But, cool side note to set up a future story, how I was talking about Ajax.
Mm-hmm.
This was not the first time Ajax sacked Troy.
Yeah.
Even though he died before they took Troy, this was not his first trip to Troy. And we'll talk about that in another future story, too. Ooh. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. So, yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed this. Our sources for this, I've got a fucking fat pile of sources here. GreekMythology.com, iGreekMythology.com, Ancient.eu, Ancient.eu/Trojan War, Homer's Iliad, Euripides' The Trojan War, Britannica.eu, and this is the book I was telling you guys I highly suggested if you're into Greek mythology. Mythology, Timeless Tales of Gods and Heroes by Edith Hamilton. Yeah.
And it's mainly about Greek and Roman.
Oh yeah, it's all Greek and Roman with a little bit of Norse, a little Norse tease at the end.
That was fun.
Yeah, it's cool. It's because it's also it's older, 75 years old. So
yeah,
it's got some years on it for sheezies. Yeah.
Sweet. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Still Jeff, thank you for kicking out the tunes. Yay, I feel like you gave this a little bit of an epic sound. Yeah, some war drums. Yeah, thank you everybody for listening, and keep listening. Let us know what you think, and suggest any stories in the comments, or email us to them.
Yeah.
Email them to us, anything like that. All right.
Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.